Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hobby Hammer podcast. That is Lloyd.
And that is Ben.
And Lloyd, we have a bit of a
Well,
special, don't we?
alarm! Hobby Paxson, emergency podcast.
Edited
Yes,
in
Games
post.
Workshop have dropped the latest batch of Space Wolves. And we've been, this podcast is 3 episodes old. Well, it will be when the third episode launches tonight at 8 o'clock. And we've just talked about Space Wolves quite a lot across the 2 episodes. Now, you can probably gather I'm quite excited by what has been revealed. So I thought it was essential. I basically dragged Ben out to the sunshine, into the studio to talk about the Space Wolves and what was announced yesterday, because I think there might be a model of the year contender in there. And I'm very excited to see how they've been reimagined. So I'm very much going to be drooling over the Space Wolves, and Ben is good. You're going to play the kind of
Gently
devil's
salivating.
advocate,
I think
innocent bystander.
gently salivating, I think, is where I'm at the moment. But
Okay.
hopefully by
Yeah.
the end of this, your enthusiasm will have me fully frothing at the gills.
Yeah, so I'm fully warm. Ben is lukewarm, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. So let's jump in and let's have a look at what was revealed. So Ben, what was the first model that we've got on that list there?
We have got, I mean, one of the coolest looking models. So just as a kind of perspective on this, I know a bit about Space Wolves. But Lloyd is the enthusiastic one here, so I'm going to give my kind of layman's terms approach to this and my opinion on this. And Lloyd's obviously going to dive a lot deeper. But this is Logan Grimnar, so I'm assuming he is. Again, I'm going to use my Blood Angels as comparisons here. He's essentially Dante. Is he kind of their version, the Chapter Master?
Yeah, he is. So he's the chapter master, but he's the High King of Fenris, is his official title. Yes, and he is. Yeah, so he is the big boy when it comes to Space Wolves. He's the man.
Yeah. So Fenris, just for the layman again, Fenris is where Space Wolves is that where
That's their
Russ
home planet.
landed? Is that where he landed when he got?
Yes, I think it was. Yeah.
So that's their home world, like Baal is to Blood Angels and Ultramar is to the Ultramarines. So okay,
Yes.
Fenris. So straight in the gates, what did you think when you saw this model?
I was blown away, absolutely blown away. I just it is such a good reimagining of the model, and we've spoken about this on the pod before. But if you remember the old Logan model, where he was in kind of Santa mode on his sleigh being pulled
Yeah.
by his wolves, just yeah, this is just such an amazing reimagining. And when I first saw the photo, I was like, oh wow, that is brilliant. I think they've actually done him a little bit dirty with that first kind of front-on photo, if I'm honest,
I would agree.
because
Yeah.
it looks fantastic. It looks really imposing. The wolves, Turnek and Fenrir just look fantastic as well. It just everything about the silhouette. And we've spoken about Age of Sigmar having centerpiece models in I mean, that
Yeah.
is your centerpiece model. It looks absolutely superb. That's probably, oh, I don't know. I want to say that's maybe 100 mil base that he's on there as
As
well.
we say, it looks like kind of Lord Solar,
Yeah, it's a big, big base.
big. It looks big.
Um, and yeah, I just think it's absolutely fantastic. But looking at the pictures, the side-on picture, the diagonal side-on picture, actually shows a whole lot more, because you see he's actually pacing forward, which
Mhm.
you don't see from the front-on picture. Like, he's pacing forward, and you see a lot more detail, like that runes that are etched into the inside of the cloak as well. Just look
Yes.
absolutely phenomenal. And if you were to think of, I like the way they're kind of leaning more into the Norse side of things as opposed to the wolf side of things. With this, I know there's two massive wolves on there, but just if you were to think of like a Viking king of old striding into battle, that's kind of what he'd look like, I think. And
Yeah.
just this one just looks fantastic. I've got one tiny, tiny thing which I think could have been different on it.
Uh-huh.
And that was if the Axe Mork guy was slightly higher and pointing forward, like he was issuing a challenge or
Mm.
directly. But it's like point one of a mark off of that. It's still a
Still
9.91. I
nine.
think,
Yeah, yeah. Still 99. It's just that,
yeah,
that
it
little
is awesome.
smidge.
So I think that for me, it could potentially be model of the year. That it's just.
I mean,
I think a lot of that is the glow up that it's had from Santa's sled up to this, which just looks absolutely ferocious, and it just looks immense. I just love it. So yeah, I'm gonna stop gushing now. What do you think about it as somebody who's kind of just, oh, I've not seen these before?
Yeah, so obviously I knew that the last one was riding the Santa sleigh. And I get it. I get why that was a cool looking model back then. I still think it looks pretty cool, but there's cool and then there's badass. This is firmly in that category of just badass. Like the fact that you said, you caught that perfectly as well. In the front on shot, it just looks like he's standing, just like one foot up slightly higher than the other. But when you go to that side on shot, that more, 90-degree
Mm.
almost shot,
Yeah,
that ride forward just looks like he means like he looks like he's got business to attend to.
yeah, he's gonna handle.
Yeah, he really is. Like and even the Wolves, I think the front on, my only critique, very, very minor, is that from front on the Wolves' faces look a bit strange because their bodies are
Mm.
so big.
Yeah,
I think from that front on, especially the one on his right or left in this image.
the more brown one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
face
Yeah,
looks a bit small for its haunches, but then when you see it from the side on, it looks perfect. Like
yeah,
it looks absolutely perfect.
absolutely.
So I think there's a lot to be said about the angle of this model, but I mean, it's very rare that you look at a model straight on the battlefield. You never really look at your models like straight on like
Yeah.
that. They usually got their backs to you. So yeah, again, that's
There's
my
two
only.
things that are going to happen when Logan Grimnard's on the tabletop. The first thing is everyone's like, "Ooh, look at that model." The second thing is they're going to shoot everything they've got.
Yeah, they're like, oh, take it down, shoot over there.
Yeah,
That thing.
kill
Yeah, I
it,
mean
remove it, get rid of it.
the axe as well, like that.
Yeah, the Apsmore guy.
Yeah. So what is? Do you know much about that? Looks like a magma
I
forged.
Yeah, so I think it's actually a demonic weapon. Um, if I remember correctly, it's kind of a he took it off a Chaos Champion, I think might be the kind of thing, and then reforged it to have the wolf heads and stuff. So it's basically a really powerful weapon. I like how they've done it. I think when I paint it myself, I think I'll probably make it have a little bit more of a glow,
Yeah,
a little
I
bit
was gonna
more
say
kind of
more
orangey,
magma.
bright, just towards the center just as again as another four, but Bunks is such an epic weapon. When you look at how big it is, it is as big as him almost in terms of its height. So I think yeah, but it is the whole thing is just a fantastic reimagining.
Yeah, I agree. And as you said, the only, I'll say one other minor, minor, minor caveat, and this is at this point just nitpicking, the axe being as prominent and as important as it is, it's got a bit of lore to it, which most of these models have a little bit of lore to the weapons. That's why I asked you. But you said it being slightly more angled outwards as a
Mm. Yeah,
I'm coming for you.
yeah,
I don't think it will be too hard. I'm just looking at the connection points. It looks like you might, people who are a bit
yeah.
more
You might be able
skilled,
to.
you might be able to re-angle it so it's a little bit
Yeah,
more turned up that way. And I'm keen to see what people will do because I think a lot
yeah,
of people, you're even one up in the air, the profile of that
yeah. That'd be quite good as well.
awesome. Again, you've got got to consider the pelt hanging over his shoulder, and that's the other thing. I also appreciate the fact that the pelt on his shoulders, if you look at it, it's bigger than the ones on either side of him.
Mm.
The actual skull of it from the front on shot anyway, it looks like it's even bigger. So if these two things are big enough to be on his flanks, that they protect
Yeah.
him. What size was the one on his shoulders?
So that's a Thunderwolf.
Yep.
So have you heard of Thunderwolf Cavalry? Now I don't know if Thunderwolf Cavalry are going to make it into the new book. There was a very specific question asked about Thunderwolf Cavalry in the Q&A that they did after the stream, and they declined to answer. So whether or not they make it, but obviously Thunderwolf Cavalry, that's what Space Wolves ride to battle. So if it's big enough for a Space Marine to ride on the back of it, then that's why it is so big and why it can be used as a pelt for Logan.
I mean, yeah. So for me, okay, we've kind of already alluded to this, but out of 10, what are you giving this model?
I got 9.9.
Yeah, I mean,
9.9 out of 10. I think I can't wait to get hold of it. I just want it now.
yeah. Well,
Right now.
we have to wait. We're gonna have to wait. We're gonna
I know we have
find
to wait.
patience that we don't believe in, to be honest. Just like the Chaos Gods.
Yeah.
This for me, again, I'll be honest. Like I haven't got a huge attachment to the Space Wolves. I think they look cool. I like their armor. I like the scheme and all that stuff. It's got to be like an 8.5 for me though, just because of like as you said, that's a model that when you set that on the battlefield, whether you've got it for you or against you, it's one of those models that you will take that little bit of time to be like, oh, that's that's a cool looking model. Like Usharan as well. Like you may not be an Usharan fan or a Flesh Eater Courts fan. but a well-designed model is a well-designed model at the end of the day, and that is one that is that's why it's an 8.5. I said um, there's nothing wrong with it at all. The only deduction of points is simply because I'm not as invested in the Space Wolves as I would be something like the Blood Angels, and that's literally it. Other than that, design-wise, beautiful. I think a lot of people are happy with this, which is always good, unlike us Blood Angels fans.
I was going to
Yeah,
say, I think he's better than Dante.
he is, and that's hard for me to say. Yep. I didn't say anything, Mephiston. Don't worry. I, thankfully, Sanguinius is downstairs. He's too far away to hear. So, yeah, I think he is better than Dante,
Mm.
unfortunately. But fortunately for you guys. All right. Any other things you think we should chat about
No,
this?
I think we've probably spoken more about Logan than we intended to. So let's go on to the next one.
Okay. So moving on to the next one, we have. Oh, I've already put myself in the position here where I don't know how to say the name, so I'll try it, and then you can correct me in a minute. Aryak
I would
Rockfist.
say the pronunciation is Ayak.
Arak. Yeah. Arak.
Ayak Rockfist. I mean, people, Ayak Rockfist, Ayak Rockfist. He's a guy with a big hammer and a big shield, and he's a
Oh,
big man as well. You
yeah.
know,
I mean, this is the one that I've not looked at these in too much detail because I wanted my reaction to be as fresh for this as possible. But I have to admit, I did look at this guy for a little bit. Like, I mean, I'll start with this one. You
Yeah,
start
go
with
go.
like that pose, both of the poses. So it looks like he's got, well, it looks like it's potentially just his arm that you can change, the weapon arm. But there's the arm of him holding the hammer in front of him, shield up above, like up at shoulder height. The pose is phenomenal. Like the entire like positioning of the body is incredible. And
Yeah.
this is a funny thing that I actually learned. So a couple of years ago during lockdown, we started Janice and I started playing around with like Star Wars figurines and taking photos outside, and we were out for our walks
Mhm.
because that's all you could do. And that's one of the things I learned how important body language is and how something can look natural compared to not, like how you twist the torso, how the head is then twisted with the torso, and
Yeah.
this model has got that nailed. Like a lot of the models have recently, but this one in in particular, that pose, the way his hips are turned, the way his shield's up like that, the arm looking imposing. Either way you build this model, it's
Yeah.
going to look awesome.
Yeah.
But him throwing the hammer, it yeah, I mean. Yeah, I dressed up as Thor for a long time for UCF, and that to me is like that's pure Norse. Like that is
Yeah.
Mjolnir. It even looks like Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is one of the most epic models I've seen. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
It's a good one. I mean, even just the character in his face, like they've captured. I mean, the old one is like it's like a fine cast resin one, and obviously would be a much smaller scale.
Yeah,
But they've kind of taken what was really good about that model and just enhanced it. Obviously, it's be upscale. It's going to be plastic. The little anvil that he's got on the top of his armor as well, the shield. So Arjok Rockfist is the champion of the High King of Fenris. So he seeks out enemy champions and leaders to duel them on the battlefield. He's got a teleporting hammer, so he throws it at people and it teleports back to his hand. So it's not quite Mjolnir, but it's a 40k version of it. And yeah, I love the pose. And I just think it's epic. It looks really good. He looks absolutely fierce.
yep,
100% would have him. I also like the throw-in hammer pose as well. I mean, the only thing that holds me back from that a little bit is if I'm going to put him on the tabletop, I don't want him kind of throwing his hammer on the tabletop. I want him just looking really like stoic, like he is in that first one while he's holding the hammer.
yep.
But I think having the choice of the hammer is fantastic, and I would love it if that's actually a separate arm. Because if that's a separate arm, you can magnetize it.
It
So
looks
when
like
he
it
goes
has
to
it.
throw his hammer, you can put his throwing hammer arm on, and then that would be a really cool option. You probably only get one of the shoulder pads, however, but it's no problem is insurmountable when it comes to that. But I like the fact you got options on them. I'm a little like I get why he's got battle damage because he's out there battling the foes, but for me, when it comes to battle damage on models, I'd rather put my own on
Mm,
rather than having sculpted on there because it's easy to do with a drill and a knife and things like that. So
very true.
for me, I don't like all the damage. Or if it was going to be on there, maybe just a little bit more subtle, like that big crack he's got on the front of his chest there. So I might fill that in, maybe I don't know, but it is a fantastic model, a fantastic reimagining of the original. I'd probably give this like a, I don't know, I want to give it a 9 maybe. I don't
I'm,
feel a good score out of 10.
yeah, it's going to be a 9 for me, just because of everything about it. Everything about it, the positioning, the intensity, the, as you said, the face, the demeanor, everything about this model, to me is peak Warhammer. Like it really is. Like I don't need to not I don't need to appreciate this army specifically to appreciate that that is one awesome looking model. I like the fact it's not standing on a rock. He's
Yeah.
got one tactical rock,
Well, it's slight rock.
like rock.
More
There's
of a pebble.
little bit of yeah, a little bit of pebble, tactical pebble there. But I mean, for us, it'd probably be like a slab.
Yeah.
It's bigger than us, but I just think that is an incredible model, and yeah, that's got to be. And then I said even little details you pick up. It's not too busy either, which is nice.
Yeah, it's nice and simple.
It's got enough there to be like, this is a character. This is a
Yeah.
specific. This guy's got something about him. He's got a bit of a story to tell. Like, in fact, he's got the tongs and then his hammer. So is he a rune? Like, is he a crafter? Is he like a?
I think they're just badges of his office. So yeah, so you've got that kind of blacksmith style tongs and hammer. I mean, I really agree with you in terms of the simplicity of the model as well, but he's got enough detail on there as well. So his throwing hand, for example, I was going to say they're kind of gems and runes, but I imagine they're controls for teleporting the hammer
Objects.
back to him. So
Yeah.
he's kind of got that little bit of detail where he needs it, but generally, like you said, it's a fairly clean and unbusy model.
And I appreciate that. I think simplicity sometimes works very, very well.
Yeah.
Like the shield's ornate, but not too ornate.
Yeah.
It's
Like
not intimidating.
if you were walking past a Games Workshop, for example, and you saw a picture of that in the window, you'd be like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to know more,"
No,
because it just looks savage.
he does. Yeah, so it's a 9 for me. 9 for me with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
let's move on to the next then, the third and final character. So we've got Niall Stormcaller. What do you think of this one, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, not as cool as the previous one, but still pretty damn cool. He's got the "You shall not pass" staff
He has, yeah.
nailed down. That the raven on his shoulder, I'm assuming that's kind of like Odin's raven. It's got like one missing eye, which is typical for
Yeah,
a raven.
yeah. So that's his Cyber Raven. It has got a name which does escape me, but yeah, it's basically a Cyber Raven. It's got the one eye, and that Cyber Raven's been with him all the way through. So a little bit of history on the model. I
Mhm.
think he came out in Power Armor years and years ago, probably second, third edition, and he had kind of a pose with his arms out like that, and he had the staff in one hand and the Cyber Raven attached on the other one. So he was kind of making like a triangle. And then the last one came out, and I think we spoke about this on the pod. He was in Terminator armor, and
Oh,
that had a really cool pose as well. So he's holding the staff, but he looked really fierce and savage. So obviously he's gone back to the runic armor for this. And what I really like is there's some callbacks in terms of the runes that are sculpted on him, are the same runes that he had on
no way.
that first power armor model, which is great. And I think it's awesome. The "You shall not pass" stance is awesome. I think the fact that the ground around him is starting to rise up as well is really cool.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so if you have a look, so that you can see where his staff is, the ground is starting to
Smart.
rise up.
Yeah.
That's awesome as well, and obviously the wolf pet. And the other thing I noticed about it as well, if you've heard of a painter called Eric Swinson, he's a phenomenal painter. He's one of the best painters in the world. I was lucky to meet him in Adepticon. I reckon that like he looks a little bit like Eric.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
I reckon maybe we've paid him a little bit of homage there because it's yeah, it definitely looks a bit like Eric. I made the comment to a couple of my other mates as well. Like, oh yeah, it does look a little bit. So I think that. But yeah, for me, a really cool model, really good reimagining. Interesting, again from a painting point of view, the shade of blue. He seems a little lighter in color than
Hmm.
Logan and Arjak, but
He does.
again, just yeah, just a really good reimagining. It'd be interesting to have him in hand to figure out how to paint him.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'd love to see how how he all goes together. But I do like, yeah, I think it's a great, and it's nice that he's back in normal power armor or runic armor because it just differentiates him a little bit from all the other Terminators that Space Wolves have kind of got now,
Yeah.
as we'll see in a moment. But yeah, it's a really nice model. I really like the kind of the callbacks. Every bone of me is like, how are we going to make him glow? So like all his armor runes glowing, all his staff runes glowing. Will that be too much? But yeah, another fantastic reimagining for my mind.
Yeah. So score wise, what are you giving this one? Sorry.
I would probably give him an 8.5.
Yeah, for
Me.
me, I mean, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat Iraq. This one, I would say, there's almost. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but there is almost an old feature to him. Like you said, it was almost like a callback to the first model, which was what, in second edition. We're now in what,
Something like that, yeah.
10th edition. We in 10th or 11th? 10th. Um, he does not look like he would be out of place even with those older sculpts. Like I think they've
Yeah.
got that classic blend, but with the new updated. Like you can tell this is a new model just because of the complexity of the sculpting. Like you can tell just which
Yeah.
are older models by that way. Hello, dude. You coming in to look at Space Wars 2? Did you hear us howling? Ollie's coming in to check out what we're talking about. Um, but yeah, in terms of what I would give it, I would give it like I'd give it like a 7. I think it's cool. I think the one thing it's got going for it is that it's going to stand out immediately on the battlefield.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it's got such an awesome looking profile. Obviously, the Raven playing into that.
Yeah.
Um, again,
You've
yeah,
got the direction of travel, so you've got the cloak and the raven, and then
yeah.
you've got the straight up of there as well. So you've got that kind of. I wouldn't be surprised if that's some sort of Nordic rune. If we research Nordic runes, I wouldn't be surprised if that shape
Mm,
is reminiscent of one because they like to do kind of little bits and pieces like that. I see what you mean as well. It's like the way that body's done, that could be a one piece body, and then
mm,
you stick the cloak on it. So I see what you mean about it being that kind of old school
yeah.
island a little bit.
Also, what I'm just thinking is, you said that about the direction of travel. This would be an incredible model, and I'd say if people aren't going to do this, they should. Not me, because I'm not skilled, but people who are better than this than me, that would look amazing as a diorama. If you imagine him standing at the top of like a cliff face, snowy cliff face,
Yeah,
he looks like he's taking the brunt of wind. Like he's taking like a lot of it. I think if you had him standing at the peak of a mountain, if you could get that element of just harsh
yeah,
beating on him, he looks like he's using the staff to root himself in place as well, which is very, very
yeah.
cool. And yeah, so I awesome looking model. Again, I'm just happy to see that the people are happy. And you did say that he's a lighter color of armor. I was going to say, is that potentially like some warp magic lighting his armor up? But I can just see it's just he's
I think it's just generally the scheme. It could just be the photography because they've got a fairly consistent color scheme across all the models. So it might just be slightly lighter in the photography. But
yeah,
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, happy with it. So 3 out of 3 so far.
Excellent.
Last but no means least.
Yeah, so these are the Wolfguard Terminators, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So we've got the first guy with a giant axe with a huge pelt like on his back. His upper body is gigantic.
Yeah. So this
Like,
is the pack leader.
well, there you go. That's there you go. I mean, again, the fact that I didn't know that and he has that imposing nature about him.
Yeah,
Model design on point for sure.
exactly. And also that, I mean, look at that beard.
That's
It's,
an
it's just the beard is epic. And then the other thing worth saying about all of these space force is they're all bareheaded.
oh
They're all crazy. I mean, I imagine there will be helmets in the kit, but yeah, I think the bareheaded look for space force is the way to go for certainly for veterans because you get to do all sorts of things like facial tattoos and that kind of stuff.
yeah. I'm also just flicking through here. It's just something I've noticed. It would have been very easy for them to go with just straight up white looking Norse people in all these sculpts and all the faces, but you can actually see that the first guy, that wolf leader, he looks like he's got like there's almost like a Jagatai Khan
Yeah,
like look to him. There's then the second one with the he's got like the blondish beard with the three knots on it and the sword and the bolter. Again, that's kind of standard. Yeah, that's what you expect from Norse. But then the
yeah,
next two, this guy looks like he's got some like Asianic obviously it's in 40K, so none of these races really truly exist anymore. But the fact you've got the variation of the sculpts, there's another guy who looks like he's got more of like a darker skin tone.
yeah,
That's very cool because I can imagine people who, there's a very diverse culture and very diverse community. It'd be cool to see one of the guys who are like, hey, that looks a bit like me. That's a bit more like me. I appreciate stuff like that when they do have a little bit more inclusion in that regard because like race at this point in the 40K universe, race would mean nothing.
yeah,
Like absolutely nothing. I think everyone's united in the attack against aliens and stuff. So I don't know. It's just something I just appreciated to see. As I was
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting. It is a good point actually, and it is something that Games Workshop are doing more and more of because obviously it's um just seeing characters that look a little bit like you just will help encourage people get into the game
yeah,
and explore it and yeah. So I think it's really good that they're doing that. I mean, as for the Wolf Guard themselves, I mean, first off, how epic is that big axe? That's
that's
amazing.
yeah,
Big fan of that. But also just again, he's the pack leader. He's got the wolf pelt, but he's just got a little bit more detail and ornamentation on him, which I think is really cool. But he does look really nice and bulky. I have a feeling actually that if we saw these from the side a little bit, they'd seem more dynamic than perhaps they seem in these photos.
I agree.
A little bit like with Logan Grimnar. The second one with the power sword and the stone bolter again
Beautiful.
just looks awesome, but not overly detailed,
Yep, yep, I agree.
which is really good. Then the one with the power axe and the stone bolter, again, he's advancing. If we saw this from the side, he'd probably be like tilting forward a little bit.
Yeah, you can see how back
Um,
leg bent that right leg is. Like,
exactly, yeah. So, and then we've got this one here, which he's shooting and swinging his axe, which I think is, again, phenomenal.
yeah.
Uh, not too detailed though, which is great.
Mhm.
And
Open,
then we've got,
open as well, which is nice to
yeah,
put.
yeah, just make it easy to paint. And then you've got the assault cannon guy who seems quite, I don't know if I like the pose so much because he just seems quite bunched up and
Stationary.
hunched a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
Um, and that
I
assault cannon, if you look at how that's sculpted to come across the body.
yeah,
So I think it would, just for balance of the model, that left arm would be better off being something that's kind of pointing or,
stabilizing.
you
Or
know what I mean? It's just a bit more open, I think. So
I agree.
again, just personal preference. But again, he's obviously hunched. He's obviously moving forward, so that's why he's quite hunched.
Yeah,
And reading some of the blurb, you can give them storm shields as well, so they can be full on assault terminators rather than having the storm bolter, which could be interesting. Obviously, they'll be able to deep strike as well into the heart of wherever you need to put them. So again, just all the bare heads. And I think the other thing when you these are all going to be compatible because that was one of the big selling points about the old Space Wolf range was that all the heads were compatible with everything. It would just work really nicely
mhm.
in terms of transferring models between kits and things like that. So hopefully that'll be the same with this as well. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. Obviously that pack leader can also be built with dual lightning claws, which is awesome. And actually, I'm looking at the dual lightning claw one now, and it's got a different head to the one
Mm.
that's holding the big axe. So it just, again, it's just another phenomenal looking head. Part of me feels that we should grow our beards and then plant them into three little
I
full space
I
wolf
literally
experience.
I literally just shaved mine yesterday because I was looking at this. I was like, oh, I'm growing my hair, so I may as well. Yeah, I may as well just go for the full Viking look.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I imagine there's going to be a ton of spares in these kits as well, um, across the Terminators and across the Grey Hunters and the Blood Claws, which have already been announced. And I do wonder as well if we may see an upgrade sprue. Um,
yeah.
I hope that we'll see an upgrade sprue because I think there's a couple of models missing. Um,
Oh yeah.
so Ulrich the Slayer, Wolf Priest, he's not been announced yet, and he's kind of a big character in Space Force. So I hope they've not got rid of him, and I hope that he'll have a Primaris model. Um, Also Grey Hunters, so not Grey Hunters, sorry, Long Fangs. So Long Fangs are, or in the old school before Primaris, Long Fangs were basically Space Wolf Devastators. So they're the veterans, and they're called Long Fangs because their fangs have grown. They've grown out. So they kind of had missile launchers, las cannons, that kind of stuff. But there is no real Primaris equivalent for that because obviously the way the range has been developed. So I can't see them getting rid of Long Fangs, but maybe they won't have models in this edition. Maybe they'll have them next edition. The answer is to buy a pack of Grey Hunters, stick the normal Space Marine Devastator weapons on them, and then just, I know you're buying two kits to make one, but it's an option.
Yeah.
I know if you buy a pack of Grey Hunters, which will have 10 models in, you buy a pack of Space Marine Devastators, yes, you'll only have 5 Space Marine bodies, but there's enough weapons to fill out the 10. I think there's enough options to fill out the 10 that you'll need. And obviously for a pack leader, you're going to have plenty of spare,
Yeah.
axes and plasma pistols and all that kind of stuff as well. So I think it's an exciting range refresh. So
Yeah.
If I was going to score the Wolfguard, I'd probably give them probably a 9 out of 10 because I think they're going to be really quite versatile, and I'm really looking forward to painting them.
Yeah. For my rating, so I'm gonna try to take this as if like, what were they trying to achieve? Because obviously me being a fan, I'm deducting points for not being a fan, which I don't think's fair. I think, does this suit the Wolf aesthetic? Do I feel like this is what people who are into this want? Yeah, it is. They're not. It's quite clearly a Space Wolves set of Terminators. You're not going to confuse them by someone else. It doesn't, oh, they're painted this color and therefore they're Space Wolves. You can look at them and go, they are a different type of thing than an Ultramarine set of Terminators, than a Blood Angel set of
Yeah.
Terminators. They set themselves apart very nicely and very easily as well. Like, you're not going to look at those and go, oh, are these guys wolf based? Yeah, they are. Like,
Yeah.
there's enough there to kind of tie in without it being excessive. Which I think is a really nice thing for people who are looking to get into Space Wolves maybe from the start. That's one of the things I look at. I'm like,
Yeah.
how intimidating is this model? First of all, Terminators, beautiful to paint up. Like, they're a very, very easy, beginner-friendly model paint up because the size of a lot of
Yeah.
they're
Yep.
an easy model to paint because the design of it. But then the additional, like, okay, well, all you need to do really is learn how to paint wolf pelt, and once you get that done, like, you're pretty good in terms of like the additional work that's going to be required. Obviously, the faces will take time, and
Yeah.
there's ways of achieving, painting a face without having to paint eyeballs and teeth and all that stuff. But yeah, so I'm going to give these guys, in terms of the poses, I said the only one that I'm a bit hesitant on is the big heavy gunner guy. But I think, as you said earlier, I think if we saw him from a different angle, I think that
Yeah.
power fist might actually be quite a bit away from the body, which might, from that angle, give him a little bit more openness, potentially. But again, you don't. It looks like you won't have to build them that way if you don't want
Yeah.
to.
I think the only other comment I'd probably make on it is it looks like they're a bit more of a set squad now in terms of their weapon options.
Mm,
Whereas in the old edition, you'd have 5 Terminators, but you could kit them out however you wanted. So you wouldn't have to have power weapon and storm shield, or power weapon and storm bolter. You could have power weapon and power fist if you want. And stuff like that. You can have. There's no cyclone missile launcher, so I don't know if that means they don't get one. But in the
oh,
old thing, you could. But yeah, I think they're great, and like I said, looking forward to them. And you bang on about Terminators being they're a nice, easy model to paint because they're like chunky, they're bigger, and there will be tutorials on painting wolf pelts. You'll be pleased to know.
I was gonna say, I was hoping you would be able to fill that gap for us. That's
Yeah,
perfect. So yeah, I would give them, with that. Yeah, they're gonna be like an 8.5 for me.
yeah,
Just because I think they get what they were supposed to be for. They've just nailed that. And again, just
yeah.
looking at this, the additional way of building the Wolfpack leader, I think people are gonna be pretty happy. Shields look amazing, and the fact that a Terminator has a shield to me is hilarious. It's like, I've got this impenetrable armor. Give me a shield.
Yeah.
Hey, sure, sure. Um, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm very happy for Space Wolves players with this release, and yeah, I think that's everything so far, isn't it? We've not.
That is everything. So we've covered the initial reveal in the first episode of our podcast, which you can find linked below in the description, and that's the additional ones. Now, will there be more? That's the question. I hope yes. I hope there'll be a couple of more reveals because someone like Bjorn the Fell-Handed, who is obviously in a dreadnought now, I don't think you can put him in a Redemptor because Redemptors burn out the occupants. But I don't see Bjorn being written out because he's so important and he is the spiritual link between the modern day Space Wolves and Lehman Russ because he fought by Lehman Russ's side in the heresy. So, he is that spiritual link. So I can't see them getting rid of him. The other thing I have heard a rumor of as well is that there's supposed to be Wolf Scouts. Now, Space Wolf Scouts have always, rather than being a troop unit, they used to be an elite unit because they basically were older Space Wolves who would go and work ahead, kind of like a commando style,
Yeah,
behind enemy lines style, rather than being aspirants and being, rather than that being the pathway. So obviously, we'd love to see something like that in the future. Whether or not that might be a kill team release, I don't know. It could be a kill team release down the line. We'll see. So hopefully there may be a few more surprises, but I would say to everyone, don't hold your breath because if you look at how reveals have gone, it tends to be the big box, which is the main stuff, and then there's a secondary reveal of basically wave 2. Will there be a wave 3? I'm not sure. I would hope to see something like an upgrade sprue though, and there's definitely enough content there to make a wave 3 if they chose to. So thank you for watching us gush, or well, watching me gush, and Ben being rather sensible over
I'm doing a little bit.
over the new Space Wolf announcement. So this is a shorter pod than usual. We just wanted to bring it to you to share our thoughts and bring you some of that news. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like and a comment down below. I will see you next time.
Jason.